So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff Walzak. And as always, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. Thank you very much.
As always, we need to let you know that eTruck Biz is not endorsed, sponsored, approved, or otherwise affiliated with FedEx Corporation. eTruck Biz is business support for FedEx service providers. We help you organize, optimize, and maximize your operations so you can capitalize on Network 2.0 and, as we saw last week, opportunities. So again, thank you for everybody who attended last week here in Huntsville. It's really cool. It's a good session. And plus, there was several of you trying to look at the attendee list as we go, trying to pick out if some of you were here for the new owners class or new owners seminar. That was a really good one, I think, for most of the folks. Watch for an announcement soon for the next stop. We're going to take the seminar out on the road. This one went so well. And if you'd like us to come to a location near you, just put something in the chat or question and answer or email us or something, and we will see what we can do about bringing it to you. I think I did. Mr. Schmitz, if you're on here.
Yeah, you got me?
Yes, there you go.
Hey, guys. Jeff, it was outstanding. I thought you and your team did an outstanding job. And obviously, we know that Bob can be technologically challenged. That's a joke, everybody. We had a little technical difficulty getting hooked up. But no, everything was great. I thought the second day was incredibly informative for my BC. I think he really gained a lot of insight. I think one of my biggest takeaways for the group was a saying. I don't remember who put it up on the slide, but I wrote it down and underlined it and highlighted it. And it said, "We have been in the day definite business, and now we are in the time definite business." And that really resonated with me. I think there was tremendous value too in hearing from contractors that had already integrated into the Network 2.0. It was great to hear the positives, the challenges, the hurdles. And so it was really good to get to learn from them. But I couldn't recommend it enough, Jeff. It was fantastic. It was really, I thought it was neat too when we got the real time, when somebody in the room literally got their update on their new service fee. That was really cool. So anyway, great. Your team did a great job.
Okay. Great. Would you suggest anybody bring in their BC to this?
I would highly suggest it, Jeff. And I get that some people may be a little fearful of that. If you don't, my BC is a little different. He's pretty much aware of payroll and things of that. So he doesn't have full view into the organization, but he's got a decent amount of view. But I wouldn't worry about it if you don't really have your BC involved in the financials. I wouldn't really worry about it. They have a rough enough idea, I think. But learning some of the challenges and the biggest takeaway from the two contractors in the room that had integrated wasn't Dro, it wasn't having trucks, it wasn't all this. Their biggest challenges was the culture change that they had to implement inside their organization with their drivers. That the way we've always operated and done business is not the new reality. Something as simple as trying to get drivers to adjust to driving. Literally, you go to your first 1030, you hit your second 1030, and then you drive past 9 stops on your truck to hit another 1030. That culture change, it was clear that's their biggest change. And that's why I think BCs need to be in the room, because I think the BC will be able to drive that culture change with your drivers more more than anybody in your organization. So that would be my 2 cents.
Great. Is there anybody else on here that's interested, want to speak up about what happened last week? It was totally positive, so that's great. So let's go forward with some of our other things we want to look at. And of course, we always look at the volume trends, and we start on the pickup side of the house. And yes, there's a pretty good move off of the trend line. That's good. That's a really strong move there on the volume. And then of course, pickup packages back up above trend. Also very good. On the delivery side, there you go. It's not back to trend yet, but we're inching back to, we're real close. That's a good thing. So productivity, routes dispatched up,
Oh, no.
productivity
Drop back
down.
below the century mark.
Got some packages and we put trucks on the road. So there's that. All right. So in the news, FedEx's earnings for was it the third fiscal quarter? Ken, I think it was the third fiscal quarter were out last Thursday. This article here, FedEx shares slide as annual forecast cuts stoke worries on an economy. So forecast cuts raise concerns about U.S. industrial economy. Morgan Stanley warns of structural pressures in the parcel delivery sector. Shares hit lowest in nearly 2 years. Oh no, FedEx's shares fell 11% on Friday after the parcel delivery firm cut its annual forecasts, fanning worries about the health of U.S. manufacturing amid uncertainty from the Trump administration's sweeping tariffs on trading partners. So, pretty gloomy picture there, wouldn't you say, Ken? Let's look at what actually happened. So, revenue, fiscal year 25 over fiscal year 24, that was positive. A little bit, but it was positive. Operating income, positive. 1.29 over 1.24. Operating margin, look at that. 5.8 up over 5.7, which is not a huge move, but with that much money, that is actually a huge move. Net income, that was positive too. What were these folks looking at who wrote this article here? Okay, no. So earnings per share, diluted basis, 376 versus 351. Looks like they hit or exceeded all their numbers to me. So what's the problem? Is it this? So this year's and last year's quarterly consolidated results have been adjusted for. So here's some adjustments. So something in here called business optimization costs. If somebody can figure out what that is, we'd sure like to know, but they spent more on it this year than last year, or allowed that, budgeted for it. Now here's something I want to point out. FedEx ground legal matters. Just so you know, usually in the big report, in the quarterly or even annual report, usually FedEx ground legal matters aren't singled out as something to watch for, something that might be draining the financial results. So that's a little concerning. And quite honestly, we don't know what this is. We'll do a little bit of investigating to try to find out, but for them to put it on the annual or the quarterly report is actually a big deal. And of course they have spin-off costs. Those things, but there's something also in here that says the quarter's results include a net tax benefit of 46 million. That's good. Primarily from corporate entity structure changes. Does anybody speak corporate anything or speak FedEx out there? Ken, you want to tell us what that is?
Some buyouts and layoffs.
That's corporate. FedEx 4 is they're reducing the amount of people that work in the headquarters. How about that? But they're saving some money, and they're saying, they didn't say how much. They just said the tax benefit of 46 million. All right. So that's not the problem. What is the problem? here's the problem. So when that article that we just saw a few slides ago said they refused, what did it say? Something about they refused or didn't post an outlook. Anyways, this says FedEx is unable to forecast fiscal year 2025 mark-to-market retirement plans. As a result, FedEx is unable to provide a fiscal 2025 earnings per share or effective tax rate outlook on the generally accepted accounting principles basis and is relying on the exemption provided by the SEC. That's not cool. What is this about? It's a long story short, very long story short, and I invite you guys, if you want to know more about this, to go hunting this one down. But is one of FedEx's large, very visible investors now involved in whatever pension funds FedEx might be involved in? And we're going to talk about just here's a hint. Look for or see something about CLOs or collateralized loan obligations. We're not going to say any more than that about this right now. If you want to go hunt this down, please do. But then in any event, they didn't provide any guidance, which initially reflected negatively in the stock price. So they were sliding along here, and all of a sudden, next thing, whoa, look out. Stock price took a beating, right? That's down 11%. But magically, what happened?
It bounced back.
Came back. Now it's not back to whatever this was, 50-ish, but it came back. So it coming back is probably it is a very good sign. So there you go. So the net result of the earnings announcement, a little bit mixed, but they beat on most all the numbers. So that's really, and that's why the stock came back. Because if you take away the pocus that they're trying to make you think, then you can see that it's actually was a pretty solid quarter. Okay, something else in the news here. If you remember, we said to keep an eye on something that might be happening. Has to do with this. The Postmaster General DeJoy steps down after Trump pushed for faster postal service shakeup. So we're not sounding any alarm bells yet, but this is one of those things to keep your eye on. Watch what happens with the Postal Service here over the next weeks or months. Something significant we don't know that it's gonna, but it may happen. Okay. It's worth continuing to keep an eye on. Memo went out last week. Hopefully you've all seen it. If you haven't, Miss Carrie's here and she's gonna explain what's going on here. Take over there, Miss Carrie.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you haven't already seen the newest memo from FedEx in your My Ground Biz account, go search for it because I'm sure it's there. What FedEx is doing now is instead of giving you an additional time definite stop charge for 98.5 service, they're going to try something different. And it was collective of the response from contractors that are 2.0. So they're going to try this out for a few months and see where this goes. And what is it? It's called a time definite delivery service charge to replace the stop charge. All right. It's so important. We're going to read it to you and then go over it. So first of all, as of March 8th, service providers will be offered a weekly time definite delivery service charge, TDD service charge, in place of the current time definite delivery stop charge, TDD stop charge. The time definite delivery service charge will be offered via the Schedule of Supplemental Service Charge, SSSC. The weekly amount is based on the projected annual value of the negotiated time definite delivery stop charge. And I use that word negotiated lightly because as far as I can tell, nobody's been able to negotiate their time definite stop charge up to this point. So that's interesting in itself. Although the payment of the time definite delivery service charge will not be conditioned upon service results, the contractual service standard as set forth in the time definite delivery service standards table on MyGroundBiz and incorporated by reference into the FedEx Express Services Schedule of Amendments will continue to be 98.5% for FedEx first overnight packages. Look at that closely. First overnight packages, for priority overnight, and FedEx 2-day AM packages, and for all time definite packages combined. So in a nutshell, are you going to be held to that service? Yes. Is your weekly additional service charge dependent on that service? No. All right. Maintaining these standards and meeting the delivery time commitments are essential to meeting customer expectations. FedEx will continue to monitor service results and, when needed, engage service providers with business discussions and other measures to ensure customer expectations are met. So, in other words, there is you're going to have a business discussion if you do not continue to meet the 98.5 service for those time definite deliveries. Paying an added service charge for time definite services is directly aligned with the service provider feedback and will enable a more streamlined experience for service providers as the pace of Network 2.0 launches accelerates into the coming months. So they said they're listening to the contractor, and this is a temporary or a trial of what has come back to them as feedback on how they're paying contractors for time definite deliveries. FedEx is evaluating the most effective way to recognize the impact of time definite deliveries on service provider operations and incentivize superior results in the future. The initial SSSC will offer weekly payments through September 5th. At this time, FedEx will either extend the time definite service charge, introduce a new enhanced charge, or resume the time definite delivery stop charge to incentivize superior time definite delivery service results. Okay, that's a mouthful, right? Service providers can view the time definite service performance metrics in Spotlight to monitor service results. The schedule will be available for review and acknowledgement. So for stations that plan to optimize in the near future, the time definite delivery service charge will be offered once time definite volume is tendered to service providers, not as of the CSA redraw date. So they're going to wait until you stand up to your optimized 2.0 contract, get a few weeks under your belt of the time definite volume and so forth, and then you will be offered your time definite delivery service charge based on the volume for those weeks that they have recorded for you. So if you haven't stood up to your contract yet, you are not going to be able to see this new time definite delivery service charge. For service providers currently operating under an ISPA at a Network 2.0 station, the schedule will be made available the week of March 17th, so that was last week, for station management to acknowledge first. If the station acknowledges and the authorized officer accepts the offer by Friday, March 21st, which was this past Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, the first charge will be paid on Friday, March 28th, which is this coming Friday. All of this in a nutshell happened very quickly. Some of you may not even know it happened. So I advise you to look for that if you haven't already and compare what they're offering you to what your actual time definite delivery stop charges that you are seeing on a weekly basis in your settlements are now, and see if it's a good deal. So far, the ones that we have looked at, it seems to be. That's the knowledge we have as of this moment.
Do you want to keep going?
The new
Great.
time definite, sure. The new time definite delivery service charge review. So what's changing? We went over that. Instead of getting paid per stop for time definite deliveries, you will now receive a weekly payment based off on your projected volume. This charge is called the Schedule of Supplemental Service Charge, SSSC. Payments will continue through September 5th of 2025, at which point FedEx may adjust, extend, or replace this system. They're going to do it for a few months here, and then they're going to decide, is this working? Are the contractors happy? Are the time definites being delivered on time still? And then at that point, September 5th, they're going to decide to either continue this way of paying the contractors, revert back to the time definite stop charge, additional stop charge, or combination of those two elements, or maybe something totally different. How does this affect your settlement? Your payment is no longer directly tied to service results, but FedEx still expects you to maintain high delivery performance. The service standard remains at 98.5 on time for FedEx first overnight, priority overnight, and second day AM deliveries. You can monitor your performance metrics in Spotlight, weekly FedEx's contractor portal, daily on eTruckBiz Optics app. So that's a great thing that we provide our customers, is daily on real-time monitoring of your performance, when Spotlight gives you, what, a week prior. So what do you need to do? A schedule will be available the week of March 17th for review. Your station manager must acknowledge and accept the new charge by March 21st, which already has passed, to get the first payment by this Friday, March 28th. If accepted after March 21st, your payment will be delayed by a week. So that is just information for you. What are the benefits of this, receiving an additional service charge as opposed to an additional time definite stop charge? It's predictable, consistent payments. It's the same amount every week for this trial period. There is no up and downs. Instead of fluctuating based on the number of time definite stops, contractors will receive a fixed weekly payment. This provides better cash flow management and more financial stability. Simplified payment structure. It eliminates the need to track and reconcile per stop payments. Easier for contractors to plan expenses and payroll without worrying about fluctuating stop volume. Less administrative work. It reduces the burden of verifying time definite stop counts and payments. Contractors can focus more on the operation rather than disputing or reconciling payments. Not directly tied to service results. While performance is still monitored, the payments are not immediately impacted by minor service fluctuations. You never have to wonder, am I going to be getting that additional stop charge or not? Contractors have a little more breathing room without the risk of losing their per stop payments due to these minor delays. And trial period, here we go. The system will be tested until September 2025, giving contractors and FedEx time to assess if it's working or if it needs adjustments. So what are the challenges? Payment based on projections, not actual stops. That's a big one. The weekly charge is based on the projected volume rather than actual stops completed. If volume drops unexpectedly, contractors might feel they are getting paid less than before. Is it a potential risk incentive for less incentive for extra work? As we were talking, the culture of the employee. If payments are fixed, contractors may not see additional earnings for taking on extra time definite deliveries. This could reduce the motivation of your employees and go above and beyond on the high volume days. So that's a big risk right there. Performance standards still apply. Even though payments are not tied to the service results, FedEx still expects 98.5 service on-time rate, and the poor performance could lead to business discussions or other penalties down the line. I don't think they've figured that out yet. That's why kind of an open-ended statement. Possible changes after September. While performance is still monitored, payments are not immediately impacted by minor service fluctuations. This system is being tested, which means FedEx could adjust or remove it after the trial period. Late acknowledgement delays. So if the station management didn't acknowledge this new charge by last Friday, March 21st, payments will be delayed. Contractors must ensure their station manager completes this step on time to avoid any cash flow interruptions.
All right, so I debated whether or not to show this slide or not, and I don't even know if I got them in the right order or whatever, but just so you know, here is on the top, it might be a part of somebody's settlement who regularly hits their time definite delivery charge. So in this case, it was $873. Down below here is the schedule of supplemental, I don't know, schedule of supplemental service charge, whatever. But the time definite service charge they want to pay him is $12.51 a week. So that would be the weekly pay if they acknowledge it, which is what Carrie was just saying.
So
If you
Matt, I think that answers Matt's question. It says, can you define good deal? Is the charge more than they would make if they were hitting their 98.5?
And we don't want to get crazy with this at the moment. This one does. This isn't, we didn't find this across 20 folks yet or something like that. It could be that they figured the average a little higher than what they made this week, but we can tell you that that particular time definite delivery charge that's on the top is pretty typical for this particular contractor. So maybe it is a little bit.
But that's the one thing that if we help you with your Network 2.0 negotiation, we can see what that planned volume was. And we've got that number separated. So when you are offered the sheet, we could verify that number for you. Correct, Carrie?
That is correct.
Okay, so you may or may not have a lot of questions about that. We went through that very slow and very methodically on purpose because it's a, just be honest with you, I don't know about the rest of Team E-Truck Biz, maybe you got it right away, but at least it took me a while to figure out what in the world they're trying to do. But I think we got it now. So long story though, it means a lot of things. So one of the things it means is we're going to bring back an old offer that we used to make you guys, and I'm going to let Becca tell you about the offer.
Okay, thank you. So because it appears FedEx is adopting a more aggressive Network 2.0 implementation structure, we want to bring back an old offer. So there are many new CSPs about to stand up to new contracts, and there are even more existing contractors who are being offered and are taking on multiple facility operations. So we'd like to help by offering you a free business analysis, and then this will contain a standard operating budget, which is going to show what FedEx thinks you should spend on your new operation. And then we also will include the expense plan that you can then use to develop your operating goals and to hit your projected owner's benefit. These analyses are just a sample of what you'll get from the eTruckBiz Expense Management Program, which is a part of our business support system. And our business support system includes 3 different programs. The first one is the Administrative Services Manager Program, focusing on non-revenue producing tasks. So let us take care of your payroll, your driver recruiting, HR, MMRs. We can do that and save you some time with that. We also have the Optimized Performance Program. This is focusing on your revenue producing tasks, which includes on-site visits, route engineering, Darrow coaching, working with your BC to create goals to overall improve efficiency and productivity. And then we also have the Expense Management Program. This is going to focus on cost control. You would receive that standard budget and expense plan. We have an app to track your expenses versus what you're budgeted for. Negotiation consulting is included in this, accounting. But overall, we want to help you to achieve your desired financial outcome in the end. So all 3 of these tied together is the business support system. So if you want an easy and affordable way to organize your business, especially if you plan on being a multi-facility operator, and you're looking for an effective way to connect your operations.
Great. And I think some of the folks that were here last week are on this system, and I heard nothing but thank you, eTruckBiz. Thank you. This is great. This is what I've been looking for. It's a good thing. If you're interested in it, get with Becca. We'll show it to you. Let's see if we have any questions.
We have one. House basically is another session for the Network 2.0 going to be offered soon.
Did anybody have the answer to that? Oh, that would be me.
That's for you, Jeff.
Here's for sure. We're going to do it again. Let's see. There you
Yeah,
go.
it says I was a comment from Matt. I was asked today if I wanted more express, and my integration date is June 2nd. So that
Happening, folks, and it could be
said they
sooner
don't
than you
know it.
think.
They said the express folks could walk out, and guess where that volume's going? Going to go on your trucks. As Jeff said, be ready for it because it's coming, and the quicker you change your culture, the easier it is to adapt. Another one. Our neighboring express terminal struggled last week. Ground went over, my BC included, and it was chaos. Late planes, drivers walking out, express drivers not wanting to do 140 stops. 3 BCs from my building went down and took stops. Next day, everything was back to normal. Express drivers back to taking their 140 stops. They're having some labor issues, I guess you could say. It's definitely happening because when the end is near, desperation kicks in. I don't know if it's one of the 5 stages or not, but desperation is there. Anything can happen at any day. I appreciate that input. Says here we go. Even sent out trucks that weren't looking well due to shortage lights. Yeah, so they have not bought trucks in a long time because they're not going to need them. There's some stations that are completely rentals. I think in Humboldt, Tennessee, the Express operates completely out of rental trucks. Morgantown was pushed back to April. They have had a mass resignation. We are getting more and more Express handles up to the 1030. So it's live. And like I said, they're going to have some labor issues. Change your culture. If it's not currently hourly management, if you're still managing by the day, start to manage by the hour, all the way down to start times, getting a sense of urgency to have the drivers get out of the building. another question. If your example of 1251 weekly charge, how many express drops would that be for the week? That's gonna depend on your contract, correct, Carrie?
I think what he wants
You
to
are
know,
absolutely right.
he wants to know what it was in that specific case, and I don't
Oh.
know.
Yeah, because the charge would be determined off of, in your network 2.0, you get a total stop number based on a week. So you'd have, what we do, we figure out what that is for the year, and then a percentage of those stops qualify for the time definite. What used to be a time definite stop payment now is a time definite, what'd you say, Carrie? Charge statement?
Service charge.
Service charge. So,
SSC.
yeah, so it would depend on, and if we told you that exact number of pack stops, we'd be violating somebody's NDA. Don't ask me to do that, Bubba. So it's just gonna depend there. Is there any update on Express taking ground volume in certain areas? I forget where I heard that most recently, but there are some situations. We said Little Rock, correct, Jeff?
Yeah, so another thing about where they have done that, the opposite way, the integration, just so we make sure we're on the same page here. We'll just say the express drivers aren't necessarily happy with that.
Yeah, just as hard as it's been for a culture change on the ground side, apparently there's a resistance for a culture change on the express side. What you just have to remember, it's going to be FedEx One, and you'll be involved one way or another as long as your service is 98.5 or above.
The thing right now for sure is some of you know it's coming in next month after that, whatever. Watch that doesn't necessarily, that's what Matt's telling us over here is that may not be the thing. If they say June 2nd, here it is March, whoops, here's some express volume. So that might be happening. And if you haven't even been told yet that it's coming, which is probably the majority of you here on the call, telling you it could be coming sooner than you think. So in order for you to receive that volume, we've got to get our drivers' culture adjusted.
Hourly management versus day management, hourly completion of the task. Because you're going to have a certain number of stops that you got to get done every hour. When we scheduled that other class, and as everybody saw last week, Gary, the Express veteran, really laid it out. The need to continue your stops per hour management throughout the day if you're going to properly engineer your business, both for profitability and with the service, superior service as FedEx expects. Okay, but yeah, I can't think of the last place where Express will be taking some of those. I want to say in Augusta, Georgia, they've kept the medical sector business and the downtown business, and there was somewhere else, but I cannot remember where else that we had heard that. Okay.
So I saw Melanie had your hand up. I'm gonna open up your microphone. No pressure. I think. I'm gonna open up your microphone. Whoop. Maybe I'm not gonna open up your microphone.
Thank you. Are you suggesting that we switch over all of our day rate drivers to hourly going forward for 2.0?
I would have always suggested that, but it's not an easy move right away. We used to teach a class and said if you're thinking about switching it now, stop and reevaluate. But in the future, it's something that you would definitely want to do. Jeff, did you want to add something there?
So I don't know if those of you that have been around us for a long time, we've been trying to get you to do this for years because we knew this was coming. Once you get that express volume on your vans, and some of the folks maybe that are on here that have already have been doing some, Or maybe some of you that were in the class last week can share the experience of some of the other guys that are already doing this. Hourly is going to be the way to go. Now, as Ken just said, don't just switch it today. Hey, all of a sudden, guys, we're going hourly, because you're going to have mutiny on your hands and everything else. There is a process to this. Everything starts with recruiting drivers, right? Because you're going to go to Joe, the driver, and say, hey, man, we're going to have to go to hourly for whatever reason. And guess what Joe's going to say? No, I ain't. And see you, Joe. But there's like I said, there's a process to this. It actually starts with engineering before you even get into anything else. There's a whole lot of things going on here. So I think we have to be careful about, we're not trying to scare anybody. We're just, as we say in the beginning, call them like we see them. We're just trying to tell you what's happening. If you want to switch over to hourly, which we would suggest everybody do, and I know there's lots of resistance to doing that, there's a lot of reasons why hourly is going to work better in this environment than paying by the day.
Yeah, there is comment, yes, switch to hourly. They are now working a shift, not a route. I think that's a great way to put it. But Melanie, one of the first exercises that you can do is take what you paid each employee line by line, say, okay, I paid this employee this much, and see what their on-duty hours were for that week, and see what you paid each person hour. That'll give you their hourly rate of what you paid that person. That's just a good place to start. Some of it might shock you. You might realize you're paying some people 32, 35, $40 an hour. And then you might realize some people are making $15, $14 an hour. I know Gary once did an exercise with a customer and they had a range of 32 to $9 an hour. Okay, so start with that just to start to educate and see what am I really paying these people on an hourly basis if I'm converting from the day. That's your first part of the exercise. Does that help you out, Melanie?
Yes, copy.
Okay, great. And any other questions about it, you can give me a call. My number is 330-591-0655.
So really, though, if you take a bigger step back, so that's what we're trying to say here. Let's take a bigger step back and look at how your particular operation needs to be engineered for one, and then with the whole thing with Becca here and these appointments and these business analysis is to try to say, okay, here's financially, here's how your operation is supposed to look. Not saying it's going to just magically that's going to happen, but that's the point of that. And then during that analysis, one of the things that gets figured out is how much you're paying the folks by the hour. It's not that hard to do, just do what Ken said, but you'd want to look at that. How much am I paying them by the hour in the context of my entire business? What does that mean? I don't know if that makes sense to you yet, but if you went through one of these analyses, it would make sense, because some of the folks on here they could tell you that too. That's a really good exercise to go through to prepare yourself for 2.0 here. Because not only do we have to know, do we have to deliver packages by 10:30, but it's going to get harder to make a buck, which we've been trying to say that too. And
Matt's got his hand raised.
hand up.
He's already empowered to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if I can figure. Oh, there you go.
Hey,
You're on there.
so for everybody, and if you weren't at the thing, the two guys that had already integrated, yes, switched to hourly, and that's important. The most important exercise you can run through is Bob's done it, and the E-Truck Biz team can help you with this, but you need to really evaluate your team on not their ability to do the job, but their willingness to adapt to change. The turnover in the two operations that were at the seminar said they've had more turnover than they have in the past. And it wasn't due to their drivers' inability to do the job. It was due to their drivers' willingness to adapt to change, because the way they've always done this job it just changed. And I watched one of my drivers today. We went and picked up express volume, and he literally looked at me and he goes, "This isn't on my route." And I just said, "There's no such thing as your route anymore. Your route is the packages that are on your truck. I need you to run this before 10:30. Go for it." And that's hard for a lot of drivers that have been doing it. And it's going to be hard for some of your best drivers. That was what they said to us. So you really got to know, do I have a team of people that are willing to adapt to change?
Excellent points. Okay, well, I think we've answered all the questions, and there'll be more. We hope to schedule that next session shortly here. We've got to make some arrangements, so that does take some time to secure locations and book those dates. But as soon as we do, we will announce it, as Jeff said, because the word acceleration certainly means now in some places, okay? Just as we said, start to prepare your people now, start to change the culture in your business to hourly management, meaning, yes, hourly pay, but also hourly results rather than day management. So without further ado, we will be back here next Tuesday. If we don't talk to you before then, please have a safe and profitable week. Thank you again for joining us.